Hey y'all, I'm here to welcome y'all to this here subpar Poddy C, which is the best podcast on the internet. It is available on Spotify and iTunes, so why don't you go scoot on over there and give it a real warm review. My name's gosh darn Stumpy.
My name's freaking Cole, dude.
We are joined by the whole heck in his mountain over there, ever gosh darn was Kronovi. How are you doing, sweet cheeks?
Howdy, partner.
Howdy, partner. How are you, mate?
Doing good. I like that. That was good. You know, there's some key choice words that you miss some Southern vocabulary that I'd like to see.
What do we miss? What do we miss?
I give it an 8 out of 10.
8? Christ.
8's pretty good.
That's
yeah.
really good.
Like yonder.
Over yonder.
Ain't is a word here. Ain't that something? Yeah, just a few very, very popular words, but solid nonetheless.
Solid. 8 out of 10. I think that's my best one yet. I think Swedish was up there. Somebody tweeted in a reply saying, I actually got about 3 words that I said. So I was really happy.
And that was for the English one.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take that at the end of the day. So this is the Poddy C. It's available on iTunes, Spotify, and also on YouTube, where you're probably listening to it. So, hey, go and listen to it if you don't want to pay for YouTube Red. Do you have YouTube Red or YouTube Premium, Crow?
What's that?
No, it's where you can like download the stuff and then
I didn't know
listen
that
to it.
Existed.
It's not good, mate. It's not good.
Yeah, shit
I don't
marketing.
do YouTube much. I'm a Twitch person.
Fair enough. Well, it's also on iTunes and Spotify, not Twitch, unfortunately. I'm sorry. And it's made possible by our patrons at Patreon. So go to Patreon. You get to listen to stuff early and videos and whatnot. So what a world. How crazy. We are joined, like I said, by the man himself, the OGest of OG Rocket League pros, players, everything, Kronovi. And I'm not one to fanboy, I don't think. I'm not one to sort of say that talking to people makes me particularly sort of nervous at times. But it's literally, Cole, we literally have Kronovi.
Yeah, he's OJ like me, mate. I'm fine. Yeah,
sure, yeah. No, but Cole, you're also excited.
He's just Steve Bills to me, mate. You know,
Yeah,
he's
we
good old
go way
Steve.
back, you know.
Exactly, mate.
We talked on the forums a long time ago. His
We
fanboy
did.
days are long gone.
Oh, well, I mean, we're going to be getting into the forum stuff. And
I'm lying, by
about...
the way. Sorry, just to interrupt. I am
Go on, mate.
fanboying. I
Everyone's
wanted to speak
fanboying.
to you for a long time, Kronovi. And actually, there's a story that I forgot to tell. I forgot to mention in our document thingy, which is that I was looking forward to meeting you in person for a long time, Crow. And I always sort of had it in my mind that when I did, I'd shake your hand and I'd say, well done on being an ambassador for Rocket League for such a long time. You know, you were the first one out of all of us to really make it big, and I feel you've been a great role model for other people trying to follow suit. And I sort of had that all in mind, and then I finally met you at the Season 5 after party, I believe. And I was fucking smashed. And I was like, hey, you're Steve Bills, come here and give me a hug. So that was, fucked that one up.
Do you remember
The
that?
thought was
Crow?
there.
I mean everybody. Landon was a real party for sure. So I had a blast nonetheless, and it was really great to meet everybody, and especially you, Cole.
It was a long time coming, wasn't it?
Ah.
Yes, indeed.
So you guys obviously knew each other on the forums from way back in the day, and that was a whole thing.
Yeah.
We're gonna chat about SARP. We're gonna chat about the forums, where everything started, and sort of going through Crow's journey, through Rocket League, through being pro, all that kind of stuff. But because we're obviously focusing on RLCS-based things, we'll start it off by chatting about Rogue and the current season that Rogue have had. Obviously, we're in between weeks right now. We're between the end of league play and the start of the playoffs, which Rogue have made it. So, no. Woo! Well done.
Barely.
But more than 2 other teams, which we'll definitely mention. So, at the start of this season, for Season 8, I think because of how strong every single team has become and how big the ambitions are for every pro at the moment, it seems like the mantle was even higher than it usually is. And a few people, not us, never us, wrote you off, I would say, and sort of wrote Rogue off in general because it is the strongest RLCS there's ever been. How good did it feel to actually end up taking down Cloud9 and NRG, like when it all came down to it?
I mean, we were ecstatic. It was mainly that it wasn't that we were surprised we did it. We had been telling ourselves all week that we were going to win. Like, it wasn't like oh yeah, guys, if we win, this is what we'll do. It was like, when we win, this is what we'll do. That was our mindset the whole week. And that was how we approached every team. And our practice had actually been really solid for most of the RLCS weeks. We just really failed hard on game day. And for some reason, the nerves weren't there for us because there was just so much pressure to win. And we followed through with the promises we made to each other. And everything just felt like the way it should have been all the past weeks. Like it just all lined up and it felt right.
So obviously you guys ended up going 3-4 in the end. Did you anticipate that you would go 3-4? Did you expect better? Did you expect worse? Or is that sort of a pretty decent end to the season?
I would have expected at least 4-3. We were thinking if we were to go purely based on seeding as like maybe the fourth best in North America underneath, the big three, which it's been every season up until now.
And up until now.
Yeah. That we could start the season 3-0 because we would be playing both of the newly promoted teams who would have maybe less RLCS experience, and we'd play them in the opening weeks when they would be the most vulnerable. And so we would go into the G2 match already being 3-0, and having that much momentum means we can maybe start 4-0, and we were already talking about snowballing momentum into a top 2 finish.
So after DreamHack, did you not immediately buy into the Pittsburgh Knights hype?
I don't think anybody did at first. I think their success was warranted and they earned that tournament, but people were very quick to say, it was just a one-time thing. They played well, but there's no way people can keep that performance up week after week in the RLCS, especially against multiple different opponents who are going to have an entire week to study matchups and replays and see exactly what makes them tick and shut them down.
I mean, they came out in the first week. Their first game obviously was losing to Ghost, which was, I think you said about trying to snowball that momentum. I think they sort of started off with against one of the weaker teams. Didn't end up being one of the weaker teams, but at the start of the season, one of the weaker teams in the RLCS. And then obviously they then beat you guys later in that same day. And it was a pretty convincing win by all accounts. Did that still not worry you by that point? You're like, okay, that's that team out of the way. Now we can focus on sort of the known threats.
Yeah, we kind of just wrote off that series. I would say that week 1 was definitely the PK's weakest week. Like they looked their worst the whole season that week, and they still finished 1-1. That was one of our worst matches, and I think my worst series of the season. So we just tried to forget about it, move on to the next match, because we were thinking with every loss, every next match is a must win, because we're playing what should be on paper the easy matchup, so we can't be losing these.
On Saturday, you're going to be, if you beat Birds, facing either Pittsburgh Knights or Ghost. Who are you expecting to come up against out of those two? So who's going to lose, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Well, Ghost did win in week 1 against the Knights, but that was a long time ago. Knights are kind of coming off of some momentum. They started bad, and then they beat us, and that was when they started their win streak. They beat us, they regained some confidence after losing to Ghost, then they had a crazy set with C9. They beat G2. And they beat Birds. And then they got beaten game 5 by NRG. And then they lost to Space Station. So they're on a 2-game loss streak, I think. So they're really, really streaky. And so if they lose to Ghost and we beat Birds, I think we'll be the heavy favorites in that final matchup. So I'm really expecting Ghost to win, and also hoping that Ghost win.
I mean, you said right at the start that you went into the league play weeks thinking, when we win these matches, when we beat NRG, when we beat Cloud9. I presume that's the same mentality, right? Going into playoffs thinking, okay, when we get to LAN.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the mentality of every player on every team right now. Confidence is a major factor in playing well and performing to your best, especially since the RLCS has... there's no free team. There's no team that goes 0-7 that everybody's like, oh, this player has a weak link.
In NA,
so they're a free team. Well, yeah. And NA is looking really strong all throughout. And so if you want to compete with all the best teams, you have to be confident. And I think PK is a great example of that. They have a lot of confidence, and they try to bring that confidence onto the field and really throw the other team off.
I had a question in the doc, which I think just by the way you're speaking, you've already inadvertently answered, which is that you and Birds are the only teams in NA that don't have a coach. I take it it's you that takes up that mantle with Rogue.
I reckon it's AJ.
It's actually a really great team effort from us. We have somebody who kind of helps us facilitate in watching our replays together.
Do you want to say who?
Well, it's not like it's somebody on Rogue staff. They didn't know a whole lot about Rocket League, but they used to be in different esport, and so they understand how an esports team should work, and so he helps me, Wonder, and AJ communicate effectively with each other so that we can get each other's perspective and say, hey, I like doing things this way, I don't like doing things that way. We can have very civil discussions and talk about strategies we actually like to use as a team and we can all agree on.
So Cole, last week or the week before, there was something that was posted on Twitter where you tweeted a little. We do predictions on our stream before every single league play day, basically saying what we think the score's going to be. We voted with chat. It's all really nice. Nobody's ever a victim in those kind of things. But Cole, you went a step further and you now need to use a rogue decal literally for life when you're a Batmobile main.
Right. Don't hate me, Kronovi.
I'll try.
Objectively speaking, didn't back you guys against...
I saw the tweet.
You did.
I already know where this is going. Yeah, no.
Well, let me just explain why from my end, right? I thought that NRG and also Cloud9 would beat you guys.
You're mental.
I'm very glad to have been proven wrong. I know, everyone was saying I was mental, right?
Can't believe it.
But basically, people in chat were like, right, okay, if Rogue beat NRG, then you have to use the Rogue decal for a month. And also the same with Cloud9. And then some smart-ass bastard said, if they win both games, why don't you have to use the Rogue decal forever? So I was like, yeah, as if that's going to happen. So now I can, one, never use the Batmobile again because it doesn't have the Rogue decal. And I've got to represent your colours, which I'm proud to do.
Octane and Dominus now, that's it.
Yeah, that's me, mate.
You're locked
Petition
in, mate.
for Batmobile esports decal.
Yes,
fast.
Please. I mean, I think I didn't think it at the time, but Crow, was that actually your alt account that you posted that message on Twitch for Cole to have to wear the decal forever? Because it all lines up.
No, I was thinking ahead. I'm everywhere.
You got 30 alts everywhere.
I wish I was smart enough to trap Cole into forever road. You
didn't need to be.
Into a forever contract. There's lots of things to do with Cole for a forever contract. I've tried. He won't sign any of them.
No.
So we're going to get back on track with some of the RLCS stuff where we mentioned that obviously you guys ended up taking down Cloud9. And there's been probably the biggest pair of upsets in the North American Rocket League scene for a while, where we're now seeing that Cloud9 and G2 are both sitting pretty firm, not even like a goal difference thing, both on 2 and 5 in that relegation tournament. How can you make any more sense of that than we can? Because it's sort of blown our minds, at least.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either. I mean, after we beat Cloud9 and NRG, we still weren't guaranteed for playoffs. We were still afraid of being relegated at 3 and 4. We needed matchups to go exactly a certain way. And the way the matchups went just ended up eliminating both G2 and C9, not like one or the other. So seeing them down there, seeing the whole big 3 thing shaken up for the first time in 4 seasons, I don't know, it's been forever, is interesting. But at the same time, I feel unfortunate for North America at Worlds this year. I feel like those teams are incredible at Worlds. And I mean, Europe's kind of doing the same thing right now, so it's kind of even. This Worlds may just be not good gameplay. It'll be pretty evenly matched on both sides.
Nobody bother show up. Just
season 8's just going to be super plat gameplay, I don't know. But this may be a sign of the newer generation of players really stepping up, and that's exciting as well. It shows that there's a lot of growth, I guess, in the grassroots part of Rocket League. And it really feels that way, that some parts of esports in Rocket League are really grassroots. There's a really tight-knit community, especially through the grind of going through open quals, going through the RLRS, proving yourself there, winning a big match, then proving yourself in the RLCS. That's I really respect the players that have been able to make it there. So I think the teams that are going to Worlds, who are really fresh blood, I really respect them for that.
Does part of you still feel like you're rooting for Rocket League as a whole, maybe more than other pros, because of your history with SARPBC and Psyonix over all these years?
Oh yeah, I always want to see Rocket League in general do well, and I think what would be best for the scene is if C9 and G2 don't relegate. That's really important for Rocket League's health, especially its popularity, its publicity. There are players on those teams that are incredibly popular who will lose popularity if they are not playing in the top league. There are orgs that may drop out if they're not in the top league. And things can get messy if an org wants to stay in the league, buy a new roster. Rocket League's not quite big enough, I think, right now, especially since there's no like franchising. We're not like huge tier 1. I don't think the league would bounce back very well from seeing one or potentially even two of its major popularity sources just erased.
I mean, you see how big, obviously, those two orgs are when you look at their social media following, all of the interactions that the pros get. Like we're saying about, obviously, Cloud9, where Squishy is one of the most watched, if not the most watched pro on Rocket League Pro on Twitch at any moment. Like, he gets double, basically the second top person. Like, he gets like 4,000 to 6,000 people watching him. And like Scrub, who you think is a giant person to be watching on Twitch, he gets what, like 1.2 to 1.5 ish. Like, Squishy is in a whole nother league. He's got his YouTube, and I think it'd be a very worrying time if those teams did end up dropping down into the lower league and then potentially then leaving. And I feel awful for the top 2 teams, so the top 4 teams, I suppose, in the rival series, having to come up against the fucking Cloud9 and G2 in your first promotion. Like, yeah, let's get it. And then they just rock up. And I'm going to feel bad rooting for them. Because I love an underdog. I love seeing people who haven't had the chance and then they come up and prove themselves. You said it before, it's like a grassroots thing. Do you think you're going to be seeing yourself root for Rocket League and therefore Cloud9 and G2 when it comes down to that tournament?
I'm really torn, because I want to see the better team come out and win on the day. I want to see Rocket League do well, but I want to see, these underdogs rewarded for their hard work. So I don't know who to root for. I just hope it's good Rocket League,
Unlike Worlds.
If somebody's going to be relegated, it's off of good plays, not someone being super choky. Because the promotion relegation tournament is the most pressure, probably outside of like Worlds Grand Finals. Like that, for an RLCS team, it's probably so scary. Like, oh my God, we should have had our spot. I can't believe we're down here. This is embarrassing. We need to keep our spot to avoid even more embarrassment. Like the number one thing I was dreading in the season was it's not that I was worried about relegating. I just didn't want to play in the tournament. I didn't want to be in that position at all. Because it's honestly really stressful. So the fact that we even made playoffs is honestly more stress off me than like even just going to Worlds, honestly.
Oh my God. I mean, Saturday's like a free hit for you guys, right? Even if you go out and you lose 4-0, you've survived to the RLCS for next season. Based on how you started the first couple of games, that is a success. So you have every opportunity to make LAN, which should just be a huge bonus.
Right.
Do you reckon you're going to come to Madrid even if you don't qualify?
I'm a little leaning towards not going if I don't qualify. It's pretty far, and I would have to do a lot of the travel arrangements myself. I was okay when DreamHack Valencia happened. I know not a whole lot of Spanish, but enough to like get by on a tourist level. But it was honestly pretty annoying, like figuring out how to communicate with people in really broken Spanish and constantly getting confused looks. And I'm a really bad tourist, so I don't know if I would go. You
have to do it the English way and just speak louder and point at things. Because
you're
never foreign if you're English, Crow.
So true.
Okay? That's the rule. Like, it's not an issue. I mean, I know no Spanish. I'm going to be awful. Cole, do you?
I know what they're saying under their breath when they're like, stupid American tourist. I know what they're saying about me, but I can't
player. Yeah, I don't know any. I know passable French, I'd say. I think, like, I could read a menu and I could, like, look at signs and I could deduce.
If it's in French in Spain.
If it's in France, no, I'm saying if it's in France, you're not.
Yeah, you were hoping for a Paris land. That's what you're hoping for.
I really want a Paris land.
A lot of people were. Yeah, a lot of people were promoting the idea of esports in France, but then people said that one of the main reasons not to have it in France is because you had to have French being broadcast within the LAN itself. And that's happened in Spain anyway.
It's still happening.
Right?
Yeah. Although the Spanish casters inside the arena, I think, will actually be very exciting.
I agree.
If they're going. They're really energetic, and they say goal in the exact same way you would hear it in English, so you at least know what's up.
Yeah, I mean, at least, yeah. I'm more on the fence of I will be a confused Englishman and I don't like it than I am it's not going to be hype. I think it'll be hype, which I'm excited for. Let's get on to the story of Kronovi. And that all starts off with SARPBC. So, Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket Power Battle Cars.
Say it again.
Supersonic Acrobatic Rocket Power Battle Cars. I can't speak. Shut up.
No, I just mean it's fun to say. I wasn't even having a go.
How
You always
dare
say I'm
you.
defensive, mate. You have leapt to your own defence there.
I like
You've
how
hired a fucking lawyer.
That's always a like sort of a test for any caster. Whenever they're having like an interview, like outside of Rocket League, they always have to try and shoehorn in the prequel.
Yeah.
And they ask, "Oh, what's that called?" Then they get to say it. It always seems like a nice little moment.
The amount of times I've said it and then gone, look, I know it's a bad name. They were trying to do a thing. It didn't really work. Don't judge the game. It was great.
Yeah. So you guys, you're both SARP veterans. I'm not. I played SARP before the Season 7 LAN versus Doomsy, and I scored a goal on Galleon. Firstly, I want to say, terrible game. I just want to get that out there. Like,
Sure.
Going from Rocket League and going back, there wasn't much going for me. I just put it on an emulator where like half the textures weren't there. So I feel like I didn't play it in the best situation.
It was ugly even at the best of times, mate. Don't worry about that.
Did you guys want to just reminisce about the simpler times? Because there were forums, there was the game, there was about 5 people. Like, what was the
All
charm
5
of
of us.
it, Crow? What was the charm?
I mean, when I first found the game, I was in middle school. I was 12. So just the fact that there was a actually half decent car soccer game that existed was mind blowing to me. Because all the other games around that time, it was like you're in a big monster truck and there's a really big, way too big ball, and you just push it around really boringly, and you can't control anything.
Yeah.
I remember I didn't have any money. I was 12. My parents didn't give me an allowance. I cleaned my room, or I got grounded. I didn't get an allowance.
Like it, tough love.
Yeah. So I was checking out demos, like just so I could play the demo of a game, because it was like 15 minutes of free content where they kicked me out and I restarted it. I did that for SARP, and they let you play one 5-minute match against bots, and then they sent you through like 30 seconds of ads to buy the game, and then you could replay it. So I would replay the demo in my free time for about a couple weeks. And I remember going through one of the tutorials, and I saw the car jump, and I'm like, oh, they can jump. And then he did this, and Boost came out of the car, and he started flying, and my jaw dropped. I was like, oh my god, they can fly. This is next level. And immediately I was hooked. I asked my mom, what do I got to do for $15? How many loads of laundry do I got to do? How much trash do I have to take out? $15 is all I need. And then I was up an hour early before school, before I had to get on the bus, playing. I would do my homework on the bus on the way home. That way I could play as soon as I got home. I was absolutely addicted from the moment I realized the cars could fly.
Did you ever pay back the $15?
Oh.
Yeah, I'm sure I did something.
Good. It seems that for everyone who played Battle Cars, anyone who got it just immediately knew this was a game for them. So my story is fairly similar. I was on the official PS3 forums, and some guy called Psionics, I think it was Psionics Jared, but he went by a name Icking Fuddier, I think. He was like, hey, I'm a dev and my game's coming out in Europe, because Europe came out 6 or so months after NA. He was basically going on the forums and saying, hey, can someone play my game, please? Because nobody is. So I was like, yeah, I'll check it out. And by the time the demo came out in EU, I think they changed it slightly to what was available in NA. I think they made the demo slightly more expansive, because I got to play online in the demo. So it was still the time limit. It was an hour-long time limit. I did one game.
Jeez.
And I was like, I'm buying this. I didn't even use the time limit. I just bought it straight away. Again, I just knew that this was a game for me.
Did you have to do any chores?
No, mate, I was a few years older. I'm 43 now, so I was 28 at the time.
That hairline agrees. So I never played it, and I never had a PS3, so I was never even in like a position to play it. I had an Xbox 360, so I was a fucking virgin. So
Sorry,
I couldn't
mate.
even download the demo.
That's tough.
So you guys said that, or Cole, you said that you saw it on the PS3 forums, but the thing that I've heard most about is the Psionics forums. So back when it was mainly, I imagine, almost exclusively about SARPBC. Was it, for somebody who's never been on there, was it its own community, and does it compare to Reddit at all, Crow?
So it was its own community, and it was incredibly small at the start. I believe the forums didn't really kick off with a lot of activity until probably 2012 and onward, even though they'd been around since, I see, if you sort by old, some of the posts in there from like 2009.
Yeah.
Late 2008, but the community was pretty small. No one really set up anything for people to keep coming back to the forums for. Not up until around 2012 or so, or 2013, when people started posting their own montages, people started hosting their own tournaments, and just doing other community events. Some off-topic threads began to gain traction, and then we just started messing around, and it became a normal friend group for a lot of people. We would transition people from the forums to PS3 had this group chat. You can invite friends to it, and anybody could post in it. And so we had group chats of about 100 people at any given time. And so I didn't have any people that were non-forum people. Like all the friends I talked to, I would just load up the most recent group chat I had been invited to, see how many people were in there, just chat, hang out, get some games, start a private lobby, and make friends there.
For us in EU, I don't know if it was the same in NA, but we had one main SARPBC chat, and it was literally called SARPBC chat. And whenever Pashy90 joined it, we'd make a new one. There were like a few toxic people. Pashy was one. As soon as some idiot invited him, it was like, as soon as they joined, it was time to
DLA,
make a new chat. DLA, Duck Like Angel, yeah.
If DLA got in, it was like, it's ruined. Chat's ruined. Make a new one.
So, wait, did you have to type using the PS3 on-screen keyboard?
We were fast. You learn how to type really fast. You can jump to if you go all the way left on the keyboard, you jump to the right side of the keyboard. Or you learn to type in certain ways, and you kind of like type in a circle around the keyboard, and it's not like proper English. It's like really simplified. Like you type really short, like you are bad. You don't type the whole you're bad with apostrophe. You just type you are bad. It's really fast.
Oh my God, I need to see this at some point.
Mate, the text chat thing was great, but there was also something called chat lag, where if you're in a game and you want to chat with people using the in-game chat mid-match, sometimes it would lag when you exited out of it. And if that happened during the kickoff, you'd just be sat there, not able to move, as a little circle thing spiraled in the top right corner. And then everyone's like, "Why aren't you playing? What are you doing?" And you're like, "Oh, sorry, chat lag." And everyone's like, "Oh, okay. Fair enough, not your
Chat's
fault."
too intense, I'm sorry. So, did you have a favourite moment from SARPBC at all, Crow? Because there was a lot that came out of that community.
I just remember signing up for a lot of 1v1 and 2v2 tournaments were the big thing. 3v3 was actually not popular at all in SARP. The physics were so fast and so bouncy that 3v3 feels like what 4v4 does in Rocket League now.
It was
it's
laggy
too
as well,
cluttered.
wasn't it?
It was also incredibly laggy. The servers weren't hosted on dedicated servers. It was a peer-to-peer connection. So somebody had host advantage, somebody didn't. So me doing 1v1 tournaments in Europe was like, one game I have normal ping, one game I have 300 ping, and the other person has normal ping, and we just see who can do the best on host advantage, I guess. We made it work. But I just remember signing up for a lot of tournaments. There was one that actually had a prize pool. It was like $50. Biggest prize pool in SARP history. $50 PSN gift card. Only to the winner. It was called Bionics. It was a biannual tournament and a Sonics game, so it was Bionics.
What a name.
Yeah. It was 1v1. The first year, or the first time it was done, I was actually upset because I didn't get invited to what was like the top league. There was the Bite, which was the top 8 players, and they were competing for the grand prize. What would happen is the bottom 4 of the Bite would drop out and be replaced by group A, B, C, and D's top players.
Okay.
I went, Cole, you were in my group.
God, was I? You must have demolished me.
I demolished everybody.
Good.
That's the point I'm getting to. I went, I think there were 7 or 6 people in each group, and you played a best of 3 against everybody in your group. If you got top, you get moved into the Bite for next season. I did not drop a single game of any best of 3 in my group. I went like 7, 6. It was something and 0. I don't know.
Fucked,
I was like, get me in there. I think Cole, you got really close to getting the second part, because it was, I think the 5 people left the Bite, top 4 from each group, but the second place from each group played their own little mini tournament for the last spot.
That's such a good system.
Cole almost got the mini tournament. It was actually really creative.
My only chance against a player like Kronovi would have been to choose Wasteland and Galleon and Utopia
Just
and
the
all
weird
the weird
maps.
shaped maps and hope that I could just get a random goal and then defend for 5 minutes. That was my only hope. And actually, just thinking about that, has led me to another question about Rocket League. Now, I'm in danger of opening up a can of worms here, but Kronovi, in as short an answer as you can give, non-standard maps, are they the future of Rocket League?
Ooh.
Because you know what they're like, and you
passed.
know personally how much they can affect a competitive tournament or event.
I wanted to embrace them back when when season 2 started, and they created the maps. Said, hey, you can pick them in RLCS now if you want to. Go for it. I think my team was the only one to do it in NA. We lost all the matches, but I mean, we didn't have a good season anyway. So it may not have been the map's fault. Could have just been my fault or the team's fault. But the teams in EU that picked it also lost all their matches on those maps, but they were also the worst team in the league, just like us.
Yeah, exactly.
So I don't know whose fault it was. If we were desperate and picked them, I don't know. But I really did enjoy my time on them. And even in SARP, my favorite map wasn't even urban, the standard map. It was Cosmic, the one with in Rocket Labs. It's the one with the hills in front of the goal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
In 1v1, you could be so creative with like a dribble up the ramp and then shoot it. Because like flip resets, delayed dodges, none of that existed in SARP. You had to use your flip almost immediately. Otherwise, you just lost it. And you couldn't air dribble because you'd bounce off the ball really strangely. So the ramps enabled you to do kind of what you do in Rocket League now. And it opened up a lot of creativity. I really liked it. With Rocket League's physics being more stable and honestly a lot slower than SARP's, but more controllable. A standard map, I think, serves everybody's needs just fine. You see new ways to score come up all the time. You never really see the same shot twice. And non-standard maps require a lot of training and practice before people stop whiffing everything. And at a high-level game at Worlds, you don't want to see people whiffing stuff because they're on a non-standard map.
So I am personally a gigantic proponent for non-standard maps, purely because I feel like I think it would add in different opportunities to score different goals. Right now, you see a lot of different shots, but they all come down to a similar mechanic. I feel they normally come down to a ceiling shot. It will be a flip reset. It will be an air dribble, or it'll be off the wall, or something like that. You have like 10, 15 ways you can score, and just in whatever combination you decide to do it in. The way that I've seen it is that if you let pros know well in advance, so it's not like it's been sprung on people like the week before. Oh, by the way, the second map in a best of 5, it's Retropia, so good luck. And then everyone's like, what's going on? I think if you give people enough of chance for it to happen, and teams can start to do maybe a pick ban system, that's what I'd want for it to lead into. I'd love for there to be some kind of pick ban go on, like you have in CS, where you have maps that get picked and bans, League and Dota with heroes and stuff. I think it's just such an interesting way that you can change up the game, and it's another thing for people to talk about. Like, Rogue, they're going to be playing on Cosmic. Now, they've got an 84% win rate on this map. They're basically unbeatable. Will Cloud9, freshly out of the relegation tournament, will they come and take them down? I think it adds another level. Would you be annoyed if they added them in, or would you sort of learn to get used to it, do you think?
I think ultimately if it were to be added in, it would need to be the result of like a large consensus from the existing pro scene. I like the idea of seeing emergent strategies that only work on certain maps, seeing teams strong on certain maps and weak on others. I think that's really great. But these options came up and these thoughts came up. People were thinking just like you in season 2, but it was a very, very, very big or very small minority.
I think it was too early then as well.
Yeah, it wasn't embraced by anybody.
Yeah.
And so Sonic said, okay, people say they want it, but they're not actually doing it. So we're just going to give up on it because clearly everybody wants to play these maps. You're making it obvious.
You need a TO, someone, whether it's Gfinity or the Collegiate League or something, to be the first to try them out. Because at the moment, it's impossible to say it will work, it won't work, because we haven't seen it, as you say, in 3 years now. And the game has evolved so much since then that things that we didn't really know were a thing back in the days where non-standard maps were in can now be used, and we can actually utilize these ramps. To me, the best middle ground, the best bridge between non-standard maps and regular maps is double goal. I think that one is just enough of a tweak that it would make a difference in the gameplay and just alter the meta without completely screwing up, and as you say, making people whiff how would you see as some sort of middle ground coming out, whether it's double goal or something else that's similar but not quite the same as a standard map?
So a lot of the problem with some of the Rocket Labs maps is some of the textures and bounces aren't smoothed out like you see on standardized maps, where there's lots of give in the corners. Like the ball will roll up. It's very obvious that if the ball hits this certain spot, it's going to bounce a certain way. It's not going to bounce at all. It's going to bounce really high. On maps like double goal specifically, there's lots of these really weird sudden angle changes to kind of accommodate a double goal setup, but it doesn't allow the ball to bounce in expected ways. And I think sometimes it even causes the ball to stagnate in certain areas, specifically in the U shapes leading up to the double goals. Yeah. It kind of acts as extra corners and pockets for the ball to just get stuck. And even on standard maps in Rocket League, the most boring plays happen when a ball keeps getting cleared to the corner and a team can't get out of the corner. And it's just like, you just want to see the ball go back to the midfield, see some pass plays get cut off, see the ball pop in the air. A ball in the corner kind of sucks. And double goal has 2 extra corners essentially.
Yeah, I think if I was wanting to have them in, I'd go under the presumption that they've been like reworked and they've been like made sure that textures are smoothed out, bounces happen normally. I mean, obviously bounces at the moment don't happen how you'd expect on the post a lot of the time, where it's literally psionics, please. Like that should have gone in, that should have bounced out. I don't see how it's different, like from like one shot to another, why it went in and why it didn't. But I mean, that was always the point of Rocket Labs, is that they're meant to be in there, test them out, and then like a lot of features that have been added to Rocket League, they seem to have been forgotten a little bit, like tournament mode, for example, like a few other bits and bobs where you're thinking, if that got fleshed out, that would be incredible. But it seems like the site sort of moved to a different thing every 8 months, and it's like, oh, let's try this, oh, let's announce this, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. It's a little bit erratic in that way. So we're still right at the start. We're about 40 minutes in.
I'm sorry.
And, no, it's all right, mate. This is going to be a 5-hour podcast. All right, so SARPBC, that's done. That's finito, right? That's happened.
We had fun.
Yeah, good times. Well, yeah, I'm happy you guys had a good time. I wasn't there. Rocket League. Now that finally gets announced after a long time, from what I've heard. Was that a long time coming with various like teasers of like, oh guys, look at this texture, or was it completely out of the blue?
It was a long time coming with almost no teasers, and then they just dropped it on us.
Yeah, a couple of false starts before then as well, weren't there?
Yeah, that too. There was a post, I think I started really hanging out in the forums almost basically every day, refreshing to see new posts. From 2012 onwards to 2014, early 2014 or something, and there's suddenly I actually literally had a dream that it would happen, but it didn't happen until 6 months later. No, because I wanted it to happen so bad that it must have manifested in a dream. I dreamt that I woke up, I checked the forums, and SARP 2, the sequel, was out, and they had announced that it was out, and I slept through the announcement or something, and I could go play it.
I like how the name was locked in your head. You're like, they're not changing SARP. That's gonna.
We hated Rocket League. When they said Rocket League, we were all like, it's a terrible name. It doesn't represent the game at all. We pushed back on it. Would you believe?
I mean, I would believe. I mean, I personally sincerely hope it fails.
They said in 2014, when they actually did announce it, they said SARP 2 is coming. That was like the title thread. Like, we are going to make it, but the studio isn't doing very well. We have to do some contract work. It's going to take us some time. It's going to be like 2 years or something. And we'll get back to you because you guys are a dedicated community, but we just can't. We don't have the resources right now to do it. So they worked on, lots of other games. I remember actually the only reason I played a game called Nosgoth. I don't know if you remember that.
I played that.
Did you play that stuff?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I saw like a YouTube video on it when it came out, and I was like, this is kind of cool because it was all like sort of vampires and shit like that.
It was like 3v3 vampire versus demon hunter battle. It was so weird.
It was a bit shit. I played it a bit. I didn't really enjoy it much.
But yeah, Square Enix had a contract with Psionics to like help with that game. The only reason I played it was because Psionics had worked on it, and I liked their stuff, and I don't know. I was just waiting on Rocket League, I guess. But they announced the alpha test for Rocket League, and they wanted the first few people to alpha test it that weren't devs to be people who had been in the community a long time, because we would have the best knowledge of the game and how it should play out because we've been playing it for so long. And like Cole said, the very first few updates, the ball was like a rock. It was so slow compared to SARP. it just didn't feel right. And so we really pushed heavily back on it. We're like, guys, this sucks. I'm not having any fun. You need to speed it up. And
did they take
over
that
time,
advice?
it got better. Oh yeah, no, they significantly made things better, especially in between the end of the alpha and the very first PC beta that happened in December of 2014. The game had a lot of changes. A lot of work got done, I think, over 2014 for Psionics. And I still have like really old clips of random goals on my YouTube from the December beta. And even that's a lot different from the PlayStation, what is that, like the June-July PS4 beta that was just before the actual official release. The game took quite a few different visual turns, but they had the physics pretty much down.
Yeah, it did.
Okay, so when it was a closed alpha to begin with, and then it then went to beta, and then closed access is where it then went like massive, and that's where a lot of things happened for you, Crow, where you seem to just sort of be swept up in a little bit of a Rocket League based whirlwind. What happened? If people don't know.
So I was very keen to uploading little clips of my goals to YouTube, and even putting up montages, even from SARP, because it had an actual live replay editor and in-game uploader. As long as you logged into your YouTube, you could just upload a clip that you wanted to upload. And so I have hundreds of videos that are easily they're going to be nearing a decade old, that are just random, like, oh, I did a 360 in SARP, oh, look at this, and hit upload, you know? So I liked putting out content just for myself, just to have it, so I could link a friend and say, hey, look, and brag about a shot I had.
Yeah.
So naturally, when Rocket League was going to release, during specifically the PS4 beta, I was using the share button on console on PS4 to save a 15-second clip of whatever had just happened. It was actually great. I gave all these clips I had saved to a well-known community member who had pretty good video editing skills, Fisho Kid.
Oh, I've heard of him.
Oh, mate.
He edited a great video for me, and I just uploaded it because, well, I was proud of the goals I had scored. I was actually scoring some pretty cool stuff that I was happy with, and I didn't expect it to really go anywhere. I don't even know why I started streaming, why I made a Twitter account for my stream. I just did it because I wanted it for me, just so I could look back on it. And enough people played Rocket League right at the start to where my montage got posted onto the main subreddit, and then it got cross-posted into just gaming in general on Reddit. And then it spread like wildfire. People were like, I didn't know you could do this. This shouldn't be possible. Like, I'm confused. Who is this person? Oh, YouTube is telling me that this person's also streaming. And I got super lucky that the first video they saw of like good gameplay was my video. That it also happened to be a very good video. I had really great goals in there that were way ahead of their time. And Fisho had edited it, so it came out really smooth,
really good
clean.
Editing. Yeah.
Yes, it was easily just a great stroke of luck paired with lots of preparation.
I'd just like to jump in and say that it was not luck that you were the person that got swept up in this, Mr. Kronovi, because whenever...
Mr. Humble Kronovi.
Exactly, yeah. Enough of that modesty, right? At this point in time, you 100% were capable of doing things. You had a vision that nobody else had. Now, even then, I was like a mid-tier player, right? So I'm not saying you were better than me, you were great. I played with all the greats of that time, and even among those, you were the best. So it wasn't luck. And it was also, you chose Fisho Kid on purpose because you knew he was as brilliant at editing as you were at playing Rocket League. So yeah, I think you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice to say it was luck. But all of this, the end result was, I remember you and I chatted maybe like a week after Rocket League came out, and you were telling me about all these big streamers that you'd been watching for years that you were now playing with. Yeah,
no, that was a really big eye opener for me for this as like a legitimate career. I had been frequenting Twitch for a long time, just watching games and whatever, and so I was very familiar with Twitch communities and who was the big names in streaming and even YouTubing. And all these people were trying out Rocket League. It was the big thing. Rocket League was very frequently one of the top games. This is pre-Fortnite era.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like Fortnite was the top and we were competing with them. Like Rocket League was pulling 40, 50, 60,000 viewers and was like right behind League of Legends, which was basically always top before Fortnite existed on Twitch. So Rocket League was always up there. And so big streamers were playing it. Lots of people were watching, and they would get donated like, hey, check out this video. And there's a great video on YouTube that has a bunch of views. It's a video of Summit 1G watching my montage.
Oh, that's pretty crazy.
That video has almost as many views as the original montage. So I just seeing stuff like that really brought me into perspective of what I was capable of and what I could continue to be capable of if I worked at it. And so I was really at a big crossroads at that point because I was already accepted to college. I've been doing this over the summer for fun, and I was supposed to go to school, and I didn't know if I should do one, do the other, do both. I didn't know.
So why did you like pivot towards going pro as opposed to going the college route?
I think going pro it's always a passion of mine because going pro is essentially being at the pinnacle of a competitive scene. And I'm a very competitive person. I mean, I played SARP when I got home from school. I played 1v1 tournaments basically every week for no prize money. I just wanted it for bragging rights and pride, you know? It was a confidence boost. And so now there's small ESLs that would happen, you know, $75 tournament. The pro scene wasn't really established because RLCS didn't exist. So the prize pools you were getting were pretty small, and most of the income I was making was through content, through YouTube, through Twitch, through the large viewership I had been gaining. So I actually left college well before the RLCS had even been announced. It was purely off of just general popularity and the hope that an esports scene would arise from what had started because Rocket League was so popular.
I remember around that time, it's going to cut from Crow being like big in the Rocket League scene to little old me sitting there at university, where me and my mates we played a lot of unranked threes, right? And I obviously never played the prequel, so I was there being an absolute shitter. I actually got gold 3 in the preseason, which I was very happy with.
No small feat.
I know, I was really happy with that.
That was your nickname, wasn't it? No small feet, Stumpy?
That was my nickname, yeah. And so I was bragging, right, to a load of my friends that I was saying, like, oh yeah, like I watch loads of pros. Not even I know them, just I watch a load of pros. I click on their stream on YouTube because I'd seen they were never as into it as I was. And I remember specifically at one point, one of my friends asked me, oh, who's your favourite pro? Not a single name came to mind. I was like, fuck, what do I say? So I Googled.
They called you.
Yeah, I literally Googled. Like we were in like a Skype chat or whatever, like before Discord. I Googled Rocket League Pro. I saw at the top, it said like Kronovi montage. I was like, oh, I love Kronovi. Oh, he's great. Oh, isn't he just the best? He plays for a team, I suppose. And they were just like, oh, okay, yeah, that sounds legit. So you were my first pro that I really liked, Crow. And then you were saying that that was all pre RLCS. That was pre everything that we know nowadays, and it was Gibbs, and it was SadJunior all teamed up together, being the OG Dignitas, where you're basically unbeatable, where you couldn't be beaten by any team going, right? What was that like playing with those two and going through the motions of just beating basically every team out there in North America?
I mean, those were good times. There was really only ever one team that we would keep facing in finals. Maybe there were like 2 teams that we would sometimes struggle with, but for the most part, we had close games, but we always clutch it out. Gibbs would always be a brick wall. We'd make the clutch saves. Me and Sad would go down the line and score.
Him just sitting in the goal and thinking, God, he's fucking good. Like, God, he can block that ball and not much else. What a man.
I'll never score on him.
But then there was, I mean, you guys were at the wrong end of the first ever greatest goal ever, which was in the MLG tournament. Kings of Urban's Kyle Mask.
The very
0
first
seconds,
hype
a
0 second
boomer
goal.
from the right across the goal to the top left.
He had the first pinch in competitive as well. Before people even called it pinching, before people understood how to set it up, he pinched it onto our half and then did that. He had back-to-back the greatest play to shut us down while we were 49-0. It would have been our 50th tournament win in a row. We were 49-0. It was a very important match for us.
Were you sort of relieved? Like, someone can beat us, thank God. The competitive scene has been born.
I was pissed.
I remember watching that, like, because it was a North American tournament, so it was like late for us. I remember watching it and like at uni, and I was like, oh my God. I was like whispering, so I was like really thin walls on my house. I was like, oh my God, what the fuck just happened? This is fucking amazing. And I was speaking to nobody at the time who was like into like pro Rocket League, and I was like, this is fucking incredible. I loved that. That MLG tournament is still like one of my fondest memories of Rocket League, because it was MLG. It's the only big tournament they ever did. Yeah. It had Benson casting it, who was a pro caster, like not just some sort of community person who sort of did it on the side whilst they also worked at the butcher's 5 days a week. No, it was incredible. I loved that. That's when, to me, it felt like this is the start of something big. And then the next thing big that did happen was in March of 2016, RLCS was announced for a gigantic...
Get ready to gasp.
$55,000 in that prize pool. That was ridiculous. What were your feelings when that was finally out there? Did you know before it was announced this was going to happen?
No, I don't think anybody knew exactly that it would happen to that capacity. There were talks of... Like, everyone's kind of had this feeling that the pro scene would expand a bit more, and that there would be more tournaments in the future, because the few months before RLCS had been announced, there had been a number of community-run events with pretty large prize pools, teams taking home grand final winnings of close to $5,000, and... lots of the event organizers were saying, hey, we'll definitely keep doing more stuff like this. And so players were just waiting for the next event. And they kind of dropped RLCS on us, and people saw first place, grand finals worlds, $27,500. And I was like, oh my God, that's it's 5 times what we've been playing for online. This is ridiculous. We're an esport now. And everyone was popping champagne just the fact that we had an esport, tournament
champagne
now.
that they couldn't afford.
Yeah, not yet. You had to win first.
Yet. It was also sort of the first event where the pros got a face to them, where there were face-to-face interviews and you guys were recorded. And part of that is, the best part of RLCS Season 1, as everyone knows, was the Kronovi player spotlight video. Oh. That thing shall live long and fondly in the memory for everybody who knows anything about our little esport. When they were interviewing you, and when you saw the first cut, was there any part of you that knew that this was going to spawn a meme that would survive happily to this day?
No, I honestly didn't even watch the first cut. They sent it to me, and I told them it was fine, and I didn't actually watch it because I didn't want to watch it. I was like, yeah, it's good, post it.
Did you were you begrudgingly involved with that? Did you not really want it to happen when it was being filmed?
No, I loved it. They said, yeah, we're going to fly, someone to interview you and someone to film to your house. Are you okay with that? And I'm like, yeah, I really am not camera shy at all. So I really welcome it. And it was my chance to really explain my thoughts and, show people who I was and what I stood for and what my passions are. And really give people their first taste of, a first impression for fans. And, I really nailed it out of the park with that meme. God.
Do you like it when you see it?
Well... I'm just glad it turned out good enough. It's not like a bad meme where it's like, people say it when I do poorly or something. It's it's just a baseline meme. So I'm happy with how it turned out. Yeah.
So
that's not what I meant at all, though.
It ended up being parodied on our channel on Subpar with Doomsy's Player Spotlight. That was, I think, the first video that I helped work on because I gave ideas for that. I think that was my first involvement with a thing where. It was him going around. Cole had written the script for it. I was just chucking joke ideas of dumb shit that Doomsy could do. When you saw the parody of that,
you watched it on stream, didn't you? I just remembered.
Yes, it was.
Sorry
hilarious.
to interrupt. That memory
I was gonna say. So when you heard that it was happening, and then when you ended up watching it, I can't remember your reaction to it on stream, but What did you think that somebody had parodied quite a serious, genuinely quite touching thing with Doomsy wandering around just looking like a bit of a dickhead?
Doomsy's a bit of a goof, but there were so many very well parodied moments that you would only understand if you had watched the original Spotlight. I thought it was really well done, and a lot of the jokes were very well executed. So I had a great time watching it. My stream thought it was funny too, as well. So it was a win-win for everyone.
I remember seeing the first cut of that and being amazed at how well the filming just nailed it. Because it was done by current day caster, a guy called Digital Bacon. And he actually, he was filming it. Yeah, he's Doomsy's mate from uni or something, or like from childhood. And Digital Bacon was the cameraman, that's the word, was the cameraman for that entire thing, was like setting up shots. And it was done to perfection.
There have been so many scripts that I've written that have never come to be. There's been so many plans that you and I have discussed, Umpy, and I'm sure Kronovi, you as well, where you think, I'm going to do this thing, and then either it never happens, or it happens and it's not quite as you imagined it. And I just remember the first time I saw that cut that Doomsy had done, it was just better than anything I possibly imagined, even when I had the final script in front of me. He did so well. And I'm glad that he did your Spotlight justice, Kronovi, and I'm really glad that you enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have been done better.
So that was at the that was around season 1 time, and obviously you guys then made it to LAN, so congratulations. How was the first ever LAN? And I know it was a whole thing of everybody meeting each other for the first time, because it was the online faces were the online like names and stuff were then paired to real life faces, and it was like a mixing pot of everybody online. What was it like, just as an environment?
Yeah, it was really the first time I had actually met or even seen a lot of the players that I had grown up playing with. Players like Cucks, players like Mike, players like Licinio. I had played with them for good on a quarter of my life and talked to them every day. And now I actually see them, and it was strange at first, but the whole LAN to me didn't feel like a competition. It felt like a hangout.
Yeah.
Especially since there were only 6 practice computers, so you couldn't even scrim if you wanted to. You had to we got like an hour of scrim tops because everyone was hogging the PCs. There's eight teams, 2 teams could play at a time. It was the first LAN. I forgive them. We were in a tiny little place. That's all we could do.
It looked amazing. I mean, by today's standards, like you said, it was tiny. But was it a shock that Rocket League had got to the point where you had a World Championships, or was that again another long time coming type thing?
I think I expected there to be something like that. I was just excited that I was attending the very first one, and I was blown away by the amount of viewership we received on Twitch for the very first event. I thought that was a really great sign for Rocket League esports in general, and that would spark a continued scene with a lot of longevity. So
obviously at that time, you guys were sponsored by iBuyPower, going under the name obviously iBuyPower Cosmic. Was that a real moment where you'd been picked up by not an org, but you were sponsored to be at an event and representing a company on sort of the international stage?
It was interesting because iBuyPower sponsored us not as necessarily an org, because they weren't even prepared to give us a jersey, really. They were just a sponsor. We're like, yeah, by the way, we might need a jersey for them. Like, okay, we'll send one out. And you remember them. They were super basic. There's no sponsors on it. It's just like 2 black stripes in the shoulders, iBuyPower.
Yeah, I looked at the finals again when we were writing the notes of this, and it was just a t-shirt, just with your name on it, basically. It's better, to be fair, than what Cucks here has worn previously for other LANs, where he's forgotten his jersey with flip side, and they've like made him like draw the logo and stuff on there. So they did better than that, at least.
After that, suddenly you're signed by G2. Probably, I mean, definitely, aside from Flipside Tactics, the first real org that had come into Rocket League. To what extent did that just ratchet up the pressure hugely?
Yeah, no, that was the real wake up. Oh my God, this is gonna happen, because that was where contract negotiations got real serious. They were looking at a lot of different teams in North America. They were really interested in scouting Rocket League, and G2 was an org that wanted to get in early and wanted to stay. They had seen the viewership of the first Rocket League World Championship, and they had seen how closely Twitch was trying to like help this scene grow and start up, because at the time Twitch and Sonics were working together. So it was in Twitch's best interest for Rocket League to do well. So it was getting a lot of support, and G2 saw a chance to get in and really grow their brand off of Rocket League's success, as any org would do in an esport. So we talked with them, and we didn't eventually end up signing with them for season 2, because we had just come off a major win, and I was the biggest content creator at the time, and G2 really liked that, so they signed with us over some other teams.
So obviously after season 1, you said about the major win. Season 2 and 3, that was when sort of a lull started to happen, where you didn't make LAN 2 times in a row. Was that because of the pressure, do you think, if you can remember back that far? And were you worried that you might, unfortunately, get dropped by them at all?
So I was never concerned about, after we had done poorly, G2 dropping like the team or me. I remember Carlos had said to me, the CEO, had said to me, you know, you are the captain of this roster, and everything's going to be anchored around you. So if anything were to go wrong, we are trusting you to, you know, pick yourself up, get whatever you need, and get back into RLCS and do well. And this was back when there wasn't a 2/3 rule. After every season, even if you won Worlds, you had to requalify for your spot. So I was allowed to make as many roster changes as I wanted. And so I assembled the best team I thought I could get for season 3. And then we didn't make it again, but we played a lot better in league play. We just kind of choked it at the end. And instead of fighting G2 during the off season, it was more of like a fight between all 3 of us to just hold it together and stick together and try again. And then finally, we figured it out. That this was when our big streak happened. We got top 4 Worlds, E-League win, Grand Finals, DreamHack, we went 6-1 in league play 2 times. And so we finally hit our stride. It was so strange for me, feeling like I was playing well, but that I could go from winning the World Championship to stumbling a lot right when it really mattered, just all the time. It was really annoying for me, and I had to seriously consider if I was, you know, cut out for it, or if I needed to work harder, if it was my mindset. I didn't know what was holding me back.
It was mainly LANs where you guys struggled, right?
Yeah.
It seemed that always in league play, G2 were just probably the dominant team in NA. And then as soon as you were in person, as soon as the crowd were there, maybe the pressure gets put up a notch, who knows? You guys seem to struggle. Looking back, do you have any idea why that was?
Yeah, we could never really pinpoint it. I think that's what led us as a roster to lead to want to start switching things up. We had done fine before at LANs, like, you know, Washington DC were fine, E-League we did fine, DreamHack we were doing fine, and going to that league play it was all things back to normal. And Landon, that was the first time where we had bottomed out, and that was the season we were 1 seed as well. We had never taken the playoffs as 1 seed. And we just bottomed out. And then I think because we were at risk of bottoming out again in Vegas, it may have gotten to some of us. I think it got to me a little bit. I just didn't want to have a repeat performance. And then I kind of like dug my own grave there by being worried about it. And I'm not sure if it was the nerves. I don't think it was the pressure. I think it was just like not wanting to repeat the same mistake, but because you're thinking about the mistake, you would make it.
Yeah, it's that self-fulfilling prophecy type thing where...
Right, that's what I was trying to find.
Yeah,
I found the words
where you're so worried about not doing the thing that you accidentally start doing the thing. So then results, then, like you said, they got a little bit more turbulent, and then between Season 6 and Season 7, Chicago came in to take your place on the G2 roster, and then you ended up being picked up and signing with Rogue. In between that, in those moments, was there a point where you weren't confirmed to Rogue and you were thinking, okay, this might be the end of my run?
I remember the number one thing I was most upset about after realizing that I wasn't going to be on G2 anymore was, oh my God, I'm going to be missing an event because I won't be able to find a team in time for the event. The event was WSOE. And I hate not going to events. I want to compete. I want to be up on the stage. I want to be in front of the cameras, and I want to prove to the world that I'm a good player. because I'm very passionate about Rocket League. And I was just so upset that I was going to have to spend so much time trying out with other teams that had wanted to try out with me, that it would take away from WSOE. So, or they would have to go through qualifiers or something like that. And so that was actually what upset me most, aside from the actual roster move, was just that I wouldn't have a spot in competitive or RLCS. I wasn't thinking that way. It was just like, oh, I'm going to miss an event. Like, I want to be there. So the drive for me to compete is always there. And even after getting dropped, I immediately was like, okay, who do I want to try out with? Try out all these teams, consider my options. Okay, sign with this team. I signed in time for the WSOE qualifiers, actually, but we were so fresh, we did horrible in the qualifiers and didn't make it.
So why did you end up going then with Rogue? Because that brings us back up to now. That brings us to present day. You're with Rogue. You guys are obviously going into the playoffs. What made you go with AJ and Wonder? Did you contact them first? Did they contact you? How did that all happen?
So Rogue had contacted me. A few other RLCS teams at the time had contacted me for tryouts. And Rogue was the last team I tried out with. And I also had the best results with them in scrims. I probably played like 10, 15 matches with each team, maybe a little less with Rogue because they just had gone so well. And I felt like I was able to play my game. With some of the other teams, I felt like I was just constantly watching what other players were doing and trying to like find my place. Whereas on Rogue, I found myself fitting into a place and the other players were playing around me, AJ and Wonder were. And so I just had this more of a natural click. And I also really liked Rogue as an organization. I spoke to a lot of the upper management over calls, looked over the contract, had negotiations there, and I never felt more comfortable signing that contract, and I've been super taken care of on Rogue, so I definitely picked right.
Was it sort of not love at first sight, but sort of slotting in with AJ and Wonder at first sight between your play style and theirs?
Yeah, so in the very beginning, obviously I only had a few teams to pick from when I first tried out. And my main goal was just to play in the RLCS. It wasn't like, oh, I get to pick whoever I want to play with. It was like, I have to pick between these select few, and I just got to pick with what I think is best. But it wasn't anything that I wanted at the time. It's not like I wanted to play with these guys. It was like, play with these guys or don't play at all. And over time, we've grown into a really great team with a really great dynamic, and I feel like I'm very good friends with the guys now, and I'm really happy to be on the team with them. But at the time, I was like, this is what I'm working with.
Yeah.
Have you improved them, would you say?
I think we've improved each other a lot, and I think less so gameplay for me. They've helped me understand a lot of perspective, because AJ and Wonder have always been teammates. They've never played with anybody else. So they have a really cool dynamic duo kind of thing about them. The way they talk with each other is a lot different. They're more comfortable with each other than they are with me, obviously. But they also come from the RLRS. They're a promoted team. They were the first promoted team to maintain their RLCS spot. They were the first team to do that in North America. And so they kind of have this, they have a lot of respect for me for their grind, their dedication, and that's what's kept them in the RLCS long enough for me to come along and be their teammate. So they have a really great mindset and perseverance when it comes to practice and training, and they're very, very, very competitive. They don't want to win 6-1 in a scrim or in league play. They want to go 7-0. Every win is super important, and they take it very seriously, and that's exactly how I think.
I mean, that sort of reminds me of yourself, really. When Rocket League came out, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, you were capable of doing things mechanically that nobody else was. And even in the start of the RLCS, maybe even Season 2, you were still known as the mechanical player. Over the years, that started to change, and yet you've remained a consistent, solid RLCS player and actually finished third and fourth last season. How has your own personal playstyle changed over those years?
It's due to my tendencies. I tend to be very aggressive with my positioning and the way I challenge. I don't tend to challenge for blocks too often, like, oh, this person's probably going to beat me, so I'll jump up here and get in the way. It's like, I'm going to beat this person to the ball, and if we tie to the ball, I'm going to have a great angle, or if they beat me, I'm going to bump them out of the way and they can't follow it. So the next time they challenge me, they're going to be afraid of it. I play the ball a lot. And sometimes that comes back to bite me, like if I get outsped or something like that. And that's where positioning is really important. But I've just tried to make sure that I don't fall behind in the mechanical curve. And I practice my mechanics a lot more nowadays than I used to. There was a time period where I focused a lot less on mechanics and just focused on playing a lot. And I was still on default controls. And I always felt awkward at times going for certain things. And other players stopped having issues and they were always faster than me. And I felt like I needed to change my controls at some point to something more comfortable. And the first tournament I played with those new controls was Gold Rush 2, which was, it was like a fun tournament. So it was a great environment for that.
I wanted to talk about the fact that your Twitter account was, as far as I can remember, the first Rocket League Pro account to reach 100,000 followers. Like that was not too long ago. I think it was within the last year or so, and it's still one of the most followed like pro accounts by a pretty hefty margin. Like a lot of them are sort of around 30 to 50,000, and yours reached 100,000. Before we started recording, you said that you don't like being toxic, and you're not a toxic person, and you don't want to sort of go on public record as sort of putting anybody down or anything like that. So is your social media just a reflection of who you are as a person, or do you sort of try and craft it a little bit nicer so that you're the family-friendly Rocket League man?
I definitely craft it a little more professionally on Twitter, or at least I try to. I don't really post my thoughts on Twitter, like the way me, Cameron Bills, thinks and like, oh man, this pasta I just had is great, or oh, you ever think about why the sky's blue? And I don't make random tweets, and I don't reply to people on Twitter too often because I know that because I'm verified, it'll show up people's feed and people will see it. I'd rather just have a conversation with this person, so I just like it and move on. Yeah,
you don't want to go on record as liking that pasta when actually you thought it was only mediocre. I get you.
Yeah, what if that comes back to bite me 10 years later and like liking that pasta is a federal crime or something? You never know these days. But yeah, I really only tweet for Rocket League related content, plugging my stream. It's like the number one reason I made the account like a couple years ago anyway. I'm trying to get better about being more personable on Twitter. But I don't know, I suck at it.
I checked your Instagram earlier as well. And your last post was from 2017.
Yes.
Like can you use that more, please?
I think about it a lot, but I just suck at using social media consistently.
I mean, I suppose it means that at least you're not glued to a screen all day. It's not like that's your job either.
No,
so.
That's not true. I am glued to a screen all day. I just don't use it efficiently.
So also because you've got that massive following online and you're sort of a bit of a legend, a little bit of a mystery because you're not saying how much you love every bit of pasta that you eat. It means that when people can meet you and can talk to you, you become one of the most crowd-attracting pros at events, whether it's from people who know you from years ago, people who are just getting into it, and they're like, oh, I heard of Kronovi, and you're sort of getting involved with people on that level. You must get asked a lot of questions at events like that. Are there any that you can just answer now so people never need to ask you it again?
I can't off the top of my... I'm sure there's an answer to this, but I can't remember off the top of my head what I get asked the most. In person, people really don't ask a whole lot of questions. It's more like they ask a favor. Hey, can you sign this? Hey, we take a photo like that. Hey, you were the first person I watched. That's the number one thing people tell me when they come to me. You were the first XYZ. And I think that's always really cool. And every fan interaction I have is really great. I don't think there's anything that I can really think of. It's more like when I stream, people ask the same questions. I have like a billion commands, then it still doesn't help. People ask the same questions. So it's more like my Twitch chat needs that. They need help.
You can just have like a video that you play every like 10 minutes just saying, these are my controls. This is my camera setting. Just so everyone can get them out their system.
Just hand out cards like Joker, who hands out his thing saying that he's got a condition, which is why he laughs. If someone says, oh, you're the first person I met, just hand them sort of a pre-answered thing on that going, thank you for that. Much appreciated.
Thanks.
It's all laminated as well so you can reuse it.
It'll just be the thanks quick chat. It'll be thanks, laminated.
We briefly mentioned Season 5 Land before, But there's one moment, aside from the 0-second goal, that really stands out to me. Because it's the first time, it's the second land that I ever went to for Rocket League. The first one was in Amsterdam, and it was the first one where I had an opportunity to see a lot more pros than I had done previously. I was a little bit more involved with the community, so people sort of knew me more. And it was a moment on day 2 where we had our chanting section. We had 104 that was getting up, they were getting loud. It was amazing. And a load of the pros were assigned seating in a different area, where it was on sort of the shorter side of the arena, away from where the chanting was happening. I'm presuming 'cause it was near the tunnel, they could get out if they wanted to, all that kind of thing. And it was a moment where a load of the pros just grabbed their chairs and literally just dragged them from that side and just put them down in front of 104, sat there and were shouting. They were chanting. It was all like Yumi, it was CJ, it was other people like that. And I remember when you came over and you sat sort of on the right-hand side, and you were joining in with people and you were getting involved. And it was such an amazing moment. Did you think that it was going to be sort of that much of a hallmark situation where the pros and the viewers were all in the exact same boat, just loving Rocket League?
I moved over there because I saw everybody in the community already there. And I think the pros started moving because we wanted to be part of that, because, you know, we connected with everybody in the stands who was chanting and cheering, because everyone in the stands was, you know, already eliminated. And it was more of like, yeah, let's cheer on these guys. Because, I mean, the crowd at London, I think, is still the best like arena experience I've ever had. And I only played 2 matches.
Didn't think about that.
And even still, it's probably the greatest. It's the most I've ever enjoyed being a spectator after already being eliminated, because I've been to plenty of lands where I'm already eliminated, and I might watch, I might not. But London was one of the losses that hurt the most, but one of the times I enjoyed being a spectator the most. And that was largely because of Section 104.
We're back to EU for the Season 8 LAN, which hopefully you'll be at. Whether you're there or not, do you have any requests from the crowd, from us, from the Team 104 people that are going to be there in Madrid in a couple of months' time?
Just don't start another wave again. The last one took so long to finish. Don't. Just save us.
There was an idea in our Discord, which I really liked, which was before the stream even starts, just beat the record. Just straight away beat the record, go for an hour, let it be done, and then nobody then tries it during the event, which I think would have been great. It's a hell of a statement from Europe.
Yeah, contact Guinness and have someone set up there to officially do it, give out the medals right there. Get it all out of the way.
I'm up for that. Just pre-print the certificate. We're going to do it, guys, don't worry.
I'm proud of everybody who participated, but it took a long time.
It just took forever. Something I'm excited for in Madrid is that I can sort of wander around. I can play some Pokemon Go. Firstly, Kronovi, we're mates. Can you please open my gift?
I haven't left my house long enough to do anything relevant in Pokemon Go in like 2 weeks.
Can you please open my gift? I sent it a week, probably months ago at this point.
The next time I open the app, I'll open your gift.
Right,
okay?
thank you.
I do feel bad, but at least you play on like a certain call.
All right, well, you know, I don't care. You know, that's my comeback. Take it.
I reached level 40 about a week ago. So.
Oh, I'm only 31, so.
Apparently, the midway point between level 1 and level 40 XP-wise is level 38.
30. Oh, God, it's all the way to 38.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. So, secondly, what's your favourite Pokemon that you've got in Pokemon Go?
Mute Vic is that a question.
Well, you could probably take a guess based on my Discord profile picture.
I did see that, a little old Ditto.
You did? Yes.
Which are an absolute nightmare to catch. There was like one task that you had to do at one point to catch a Ditto.
LDN.
And it took me about like 3 months or something to
to
finally catch one.
Yeah, but I didn't know Ditto's move
Cyrax
was
RL?
literally copy the Pokemon in the gym that you're battling.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
But it also makes everything like
Kinetic
not
RL.
effective against each other unless it's like fighting or dark or
RL.
something.
Well, it's great against Rayquaza raids when Rayquaza was big, because Dragon on Dragon.
Give a shit about Seisons.
It was free.
He's got
Very
R
true. So I did so many Rayquaza raids. So we're going to do some quick fire Twitter questions. Nice quick answers from lovely people on Twitter that replied to our tweet. So the first one, Cole, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, so before I ask, super duper quick fire this one. Quick question, quick answer, and then on to the next. How have you remained competitive in RLCS when almost all of your peers have fallen by the wayside? Can experience match youthful reactions from @MuteVickers?
I think reaction time is still good for me. I'm not that old yet. There's also a lot of expectation. I have a lot of hours in this game, and because I'm grinding the game every day, I know what to expect, so I don't have to rely on my reaction as much.
How do you feel about our Twitch emote, TRLMFW? Because apparently a few of our viewers were banned after they spammed it in your chat a lot. From Psy London.
One of my mods may have just gone overboard. I mean, that has existed since God knows how
2015.
long.
Fisho asked you.
You guys asked permission
Fisho
for
did,
that
yeah.
email.
I was scared
and
to.
I gave it to you guys. No, yeah, I think it's fun. Yeah, it's fine.
We've got a viewer who got a T-shirt with that emote on it.
Yeah, he's coming to Madrid, Drumzels. So hopefully that'll you can sign that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, I'll sign that and get a pic with that and make the same face.
Yes!
Yes. Okay, is there anything in particular about your playstyle or personality that has kept you competitive at the top tier over the last 4 to 5 years? From 7111RL.
I definitely think it's just my personality. I am highly competitive. I don't like losing, but losing makes me want to play the game more and grind so I can win. And when I am winning, I like to stay on top. I don't like to just be relaxed and go back to like struggling again. I want to be on top. I want to stay on top. I want to dominate.
How good was that pasta you had the other day from @AmilCole93?
I actually did have pasta the other day. It's my favorite dish, chicken fettuccine alfredo.
Oh my god!
It's my go-to at every restaurant that has it, and I loved it.
I never would have known that. Okay, as a pro and one of the OGs, you've faced a lot of tough opponents over the years. After all these years, who would you say is your biggest arch enemy in Rocket League? From @ManuRoman.
That's a tough one. I would have to say, I don't think I would have said this in the past, but nowadays I think I have to say it's Cucks. I've played him a lot more in recent years, and he's the one that cost us the series that probably got me kicked for beating me in Vegas. So yeah, it's all on Cucks. It's all his fault.
Jesus, poor old Cooks there. Are there any players throughout the life of Rocket League that you would have loved to have seen become an RLCS player? From Smither.
I think I would have loved to see Kyle Mask become a fully fledged, consistent RLCS player, especially since he has one of the first hypest moments, and it was against me. And we're still friends to this day. I think it would have been cool to see him at the top.
If things didn't work out with Rogue, would you ever try your old team again with Lechinio and Over Zero from @TVP?
Considering I don't think Latch plays Rocket League a whole lot anymore, and I do see Over Zero playing a bit more nowadays. I don't think it would go very well, to be completely honest. Maybe if there's like a show match one day where they bring back the old teams or something, we could, because we did that at one of the RLCSs. It was me, Gibbs and Sad against some pickup team.
I want that to happen.
Maybe one day that would be fun,
Yes.
but for actual seriousness, no, I don't think so.
Do you feel happy, sad, or nothing in seeing G2 in the promotion tournament? From @KineticRL.
Nothing, leaning towards sad, mainly because it's bad for the scene as a whole that they're there. But I focus on my team and usually my team alone. So if their matches don't impact my matches, I don't care.
What was your best/favourite season of competitive RL? I imagine RLCS. As in, which had the best story arcs or depth of competition? From Young Glenn.
I think season 4 was one of the seasons that I remember the most. Just mainly because we had failed so bad last season, redeemed ourselves, and that was the start of a very confident streak of tournament performances from us.
Hello, Mr. Kronovi. How does it feel knowing you've left poor CoolCole93 in the dust of your career after he launched you into popularity after appearing on the original Team Rocket tutorials? From @CraftmanRL.
Man, he's not wrong. He's not wrong, you know.
So you don't feel bad?
It's not even a question.
How does it feel?
I just agree, you know.
How does it feel? Yes.
Yes. Yes, I'm known to feel. About pasta, mainly.
Yes, I have those feelings.
I was really impressed with your Mafia play at Beyond the Summit. What is your strategy for success? Who are the best players? And most importantly, why didn't CJ save Jarzo? From Seison's RL.
And Mafia, I got lucky in that first round. I don't know. I just let other people do the work for me, you know? And then I just became a target after every single game because people thought I had a big brain when I knew that they were both, CJ and Johnny Boy were just going at it, and I didn't have to do anything. And nobody suspected me till the very end, so.
Well, that's all the Twitter questions. Thank you, mate.
Thank you for everyone who asked those.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. The final little section is Player of the Week. Now, Cole, all right, we're on one of our final weeks of Rocket League, okay?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Player of the Week. Player of the WEAK, as in week,
Yeah.
as in not a very good player this week.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get it?
I think it's because it's like player of the we, so one of us,
No.
and AK is an AK-40, so it's like
No,
they're shooting themselves in the
No.
foot.
still no. You're
No.
sort of. It's weird that you got to sort of the same conclusion, but with awful logic. It's like show you're working. You'd only get points for the answer.
Take it.
There isn't a Player of the Week. 'Cause there's not been any games, so
Cool.
there just isn't one. But
Good
tell you what,
section.
yeah. Instead, I'm just going to give it to my ranked teammates and call it a day.
What rank are you?
Ranked is bad. In 2s, I'm unranked.
Okay, in 3s?
Champ 2 at the moment, actually.
Are you really?
Yeah. Crow, I hit, and I'm not proud to say it. It's in a time where I played for 3 hours in the past 2 weeks. It said on Steam. I hit Diamond 3.
Oh, no. Scraping
Yeah.
the bottom of the barrel with that one.
I know, and seeing as last season I got Grand Champ, so it's a fall from grace. I'm not proud of myself at that.
I mean, that's what
Collex
happens.
reminded me though.
3
Back
hours.
to Champ 2 though, well done.
Yeah, back to Champ 2. I've been off stream grinding.
Good man.
I've been on the hashtag grind. So Crow, at the end of this, which firstly is our longest podcast ever, we've hit
Yeah.
90 minutes of recording.
You guys
so
are just
so
afraid
much.
to shut me up.
No, we're not. We are sitting back and just listening. You're making our
The
job
amount-
very easy, Kronovi. I love it.
The amount of times I've nipped off to get a new cup of tea because 4 of mine have gone cold. So I just wanted to say, do you have any final words for your fans? Because some of the Cam fam, they've been following you for years now, like 3 or 4 years, a lot of them. What do you have to say to them who have been there for the entire time just before you will hopefully be making LAN on a Saturday?
I mean, I'm just really like forever grateful to the people who have been around since the beginning and have stuck around and continued to support. They've been through all the ups and downs with me, and they've supported me through it all, no matter what. And it's those people that continue to have faith in me that allow me to keep a really good mindset and continue to try to be a role model for newer people coming into the scene. So it's all because of them, and I couldn't be more thankful.
Well, thank you, Crow, for coming on the Poddy C. It's been wonderful. I've had a really good
It's been
time.
a lot of fun.
So good luck on Saturday. I hope you make it. I hope we see you in Madrid.
Definitely.
I hope it all goes well for you, mate.
It will. I'm counting on it.
Good stuff. All right. Thank you, everybody who's listened. Remember, this is all thanks to our patrons on Patreon. So patreon.com/SARPBC if you fancy it. Tiers are like $1 and you get to hear stuff early. What a world we live in where capitalism rules.
good, isn't it?
Otherwise, yeah, it's good. We'll see you in episode number 20. That's the next one. And that'll be post-playoffs. All right. See you later, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.